because if somebody notes your account from Hertz reservation line, they assume at the rental counter when you go pick it up that you're just an important person. Hey everybody, welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com. Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Erik. This show will be just me. AJ and I were not able to get a decent Skype connection to be able to record. It is actually Wednesday morning for me, so today's episode might be a little bit shorter. I want to talk with you a little bit about my experience so far in Europe, share some travel tips that I've learned along the way here, and also go over some of the things that you need to do to effectively plan so that you can diversify your frequent flyer points. So today we're going to be talking about the different methods in terms of planning based around your travels and your current credit situation, as well as the cards and points that you already have to make sure that you're in an ideal position to be able to redeem for travel. It will be a little bit of a recap of what we covered a couple of episodes ago about planning a credit card churn, but it should be a little bit more in depth on the planning aspect and with a special focus on diversification. So, I am in Calella de Palafrugell, which is about 40 kilometers from France and Andorra. It has been really, really cool here. So far on this trip, I've had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time in Italy, in Rome, Florence, Cinque Terre, and also just a few hours in Genoa before flying to Barcelona. Then spent a couple days in Barcelona, and now I am on the Mediterranean coast, just about an hour and a half north of Barcelona, again in Calella de Palafrugell. It's been pretty interesting here, especially on this trip from a language learning perspective. Obviously, spent some time getting comfortable with Italian, which I didn't speak any Italian at the beginning. And now I'm in Catalonia, which is a very distinct and somewhat independent region of Spain. For those of you who don't know, Barcelona is the capital of Catalan, which is a Spanish territory that speaks an entirely different language and has a pretty different culture in a lot of respects from the rest of Spain. So these folks are really, really friendly, and it's an interesting dynamic because they've grown up with both languages. Almost everybody here does speak Spanish or Castellano, but the language of communication is absolutely Catalan. And so, you know, if you're a foreigner, they're happy to speak Spanish with you, and a lot of people still speak some English as well. But when you hear people talking to each other, they're speaking Catalan, and that's a very different experience. It's something kind of interesting to tune your ear to. And Catalan's a little bit of a mix of French and Spanish. That's obviously a huge oversimplification, but there's a lot of structural things in Catalan that are similar to French. The way that the sentences are structured, especially with negatives. If anyone who studies French knows that you add a pas at the end. So je ne sais pas would be I don't know. And in Catalan, it's pretty similar. So you'd say something like c'est pas. And so anyways, it's been really interesting to sort of learn a little bit of the ropes. I'm staying here with a family friend who is really a great role model for me in terms of language. She speaks fluent French, Spanish, pretty amazing English, and obviously Catalan as well. So I've had a chance to have someone here who can sort of translate and help me figure out and connect the dots. One little technique I wanted to share with you guys that's been really helpful for me, it was something that we talked about a little bit on episode 9 of the podcast, about how to manage learning language when you arrive without any prior experience. So I've got a couple of different things going on linguistically here. I spoke a lot of Spanish back when I was in college, so about 10 years ago, and I've kind of let that slide in favor of Portuguese, so my Spanish I'm definitely working on getting back up to speed, but Italian and Catalan are both completely new for me. And so one of the things that I do is write down phonetically when I learn something new. For me, and I think for a lot of people, memory is much stronger if I'm able to take a second and record. And it's better to do with pencil and paper from a memorization standpoint, but you know, if you don't have that handy, you can always use your phone. I've been using my iPhone, just the simple notepad on there does the trick. And what I wanted to say is that for me, it helps the most to write something out phonetically. So in Catalan, if you want to say please, it's kind of the similar construction to French s'il vous plaît. It's s'il vous plaît. And so the way that they say it is actually really fast. And so they say s'il vous plaît. And for me, even though it has nothing to do with the way it's actually written, if I just write S-U-S and then P-L-O-W, that's enough for me to remember how to say it and how to repeat it when I need it later on. And so I've been just kind of chipping away, trying to learn how to say things like, left and right to understand directions that people are giving me. Food, it's really helpful to have for here or to go, ask for the bill. And so I've been just sort of making a list and writing those out phonetically. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments on the show notes page here. If you guys have any suggestions about how you attack a new language when you don't have any prior experience, I think that would be a really cool discussion. Don't think I mentioned it at the top of the show. So for today's show, you're going to find notes at abroaders.com/diversity. I wanted to share a little bit of inspiration before we jump into the travel hacking news and content for today. I had the opportunity to check out La Sagrada Familia, which is in Barcelona. It is a huge cathedral designed by Antoni Gaudí. The thing that impressed me the most was the magnitude of the vision that Gaudí had with this project. He said himself that this was going to be an undertaking for the centuries, and he realized that there was absolutely no way that he was going to see his grandiose vision completed in his lifetime. I went to see the same cathedral 10 years ago when I was in Barcelona for the first time, and I think in retrospect I totally missed the point. And so I wanted to take a second to share what I learned the other day with any of you guys that might have the opportunity to go take a look. First things first, if you do go, you should definitely do a tour with a guide or take the audio guided tour, because there's a ton of information that you're likely to miss if you just sort of wander around on your own. What is most impressive about this is Gaudí took over the project in 1883 and was basically working on sketches until 1906. He had sort of the final plans designed out. But even so, realizing that he was never going to live to see the whole thing through, he left certain pieces unfinished, but with instructions, with guidelines for how the project should be carried out, and sort of gave a roadmap. And now there are folks in Barcelona, that architects that are following his footsteps and trying to fulfill Gaudí's vision by interpreting his designs and his outlines of how this should work. And so what was really cool is that Gaudí saw that this was going to be a project for the centuries, and that he had the confidence to leave this work for the people of Catalan to follow through. Gaudí died in an accident in 1926, so he may have even finished less than he expected to in his natural life, but the church is still under construction and probably will be for quite some time, so hopefully you guys have a chance to check that out as well. I think the audacity of creating a project of that magnitude definitely made me excited to get back to work on my own projects. Moving on to some news for you guys, the United Explorer Personal Card 55,000 point offer has officially ended, but we will be on the lookout for any stragglers, any spare links that are still floating around out there. So if any of those surface that still have an opportunity to get that offer, we are definitely going to be posting them on the Abroaders Cards page. That's abroaders.com/cards, where you can find all the best offers at any given time. We also recently became aware that the United Explorer Business Card has gone up from 30,000 points to 50,000 points. So we're going to be putting that link up as soon as we can. Good opportunity to double down on your United miles and get yourself a little bit closer to a business class round trip redemption. Next thing I wanted to talk about is credit card benefits that need to be activated. I was able to use my Hertz Gold status, which I have from American Express, having the Business Platinum card, and I realized that it might be pretty easy for folks to miss out on a lot of the benefits that come at no extra cost with certain credit cards, but that need to be activated by calling the bank. And so I wanted to cover a couple of those just to give you guys an idea of what you should be on the lookout for. First of all, the American Express Platinum is a great example of this. There's a whole bunch of benefits that you have to activate. First one is Regis Gold, Regis is a network of offices that are in a whole bunch of international cities. So Barcelona, for example, has 3 Regis offices, I believe. AJ and I used a couple in Berlin and Prague last year, and there's thousands of them around the world, and they give you access to a lounge. So it's not quite a private office, but you do have access to high-speed internet, there's free coffee, and generally a really nice workspace, which can be a lot better than, say, a cafe type environment that often is pretty noisy, and they're trying to make you buy stuff to be able to sit there and use the internet. So it can be a really nice benefit, and it's one that you just need to call American Express and let them know that you'd like them to mail you your Regis Gold card, and they'll enroll you or send you a link to get signed up. The next one, which is really important, is the Priority Pass Select Lounge membership. And that is the Amex card itself. The actual credit card gets you into a few of the lounges, but those are just Delta when you're traveling on Delta that day, and the Amex Centurion lounges. And so the vast majority of the lounges you can get into with the Platinum card require you to have that Priority Pass Select card, which you call American Express, let them know you'd like to enroll, and they will mail it to you. And then you have access to a whole bunch, I think over 600 lounges internationally. So it's a really great benefit, but again, one that if you just show up at one of those lounges with your Amex card, they're not going to let you in. The last one that you have to activate, and you should definitely get on it, a new benefit with the Business Platinum, is Boingo Wi-Fi. It's basically a $50 a month plan that gives you access to Boingo. I know it's come in handy for me on a lot of different occasions, especially at airports where there often is free Wi-Fi, but you have to register. In other countries like Brazil, sometimes they want your CPF, which is basically like a social security number. So it can be a huge pain to register. Sometimes you need a mobile phone. If you have Boingo, you can just get on and start working. So that's a great benefit. It doesn't apply to Boingo flights, but other than that, any Boingo hotspots, you're going to be able to log right in. So definitely get that activated as well if you have the Amex Platinum. The last benefit, and this is the one that I was able to use this week, is that they give you status with National and Hertz rental cars. And so I have Hertz Gold. I don't ever rent cars, or hardly ever, but I do have Hertz Gold through Amex. And I called after making a reservation to rent a car in Barcelona to drive up the coast to Palafrugell. And I wanted to share this tip because it says in Hertz literature that you are entitled to an upgrade if one's available. And so I wanted to just kind of see how that would work. It also says that you're supposed to be able to skip the counter and just sort of grab your keys and go pick your car from the lot. And so I wasn't sure how that was going to work, and I called Hertz Reservations to sort of see what I could expect. And the person I talked to said that he would put a note on my account to make sure that I got the upgrade if it was available. And I think that ended up making a huge difference. So it's a great tip to just give the Hertz Gold, or if in the case of another rental agency, give their reservation line a call and ask them to note your account. When I got to the car rental place in Barcelona, they had that note, and they actually gave me a double upgrade, which put me in the class of BMWs, where I had basically paid for a compact car. I didn't actually get a Beamer, but I got a pretty nice SUV. And one other note is to be careful what you wish for, because I ended up getting a car that was pretty big for Barcelona. Fortunately, we were driving away from the city, but going to park and pick up bags at our Airbnb joint before getting out of town was quite a hassle, and I probably would have been happier with the compact car, at least when we were in Barcelona. But if you want to take advantage of those upgrades, make sure you give the reservation line a call. They will take care of you and make sure that the local office, I think it's just sort of a communication thing, because if somebody notes your account from Hertz reservation line, they assume at the rental counter when you go pick it up that you're just an important person, that you're, they don't know why the account's noted, but somebody went in there and wrote, give this guy an upgrade. And so I, in this case, got a double upgrade, went up 2 different classes of car. So hopefully that works out for you. I'd love to hear back from you guys about how that strategy works on your next rental. Time to get into some nuts and bolts on how to manage credit card applications with a focus on diversifying your accounts. The first step that you need to take when planning a round of applications is to go through and check your credit. We talked about a little bit of that a few episodes back on episode 33 about using Credit Karma to check your credit score, see what your utilization is, and also check the number of recent inquiries. Remember that utilization is the biggest opportunity to improve your credit score just by paying down some of those balances. It makes it look like you're using your available credit more responsibly and makes it more likely that you will get approved. The next thing that you want to do, though, is think a little bit about your upcoming travel goals. In particular, whether you're planning any trips that are going to involve one-ways or would have a big value from being able to incorporate a stopover. And so if that's the case, you want to, in this round of applications, be looking at types of points that can either be used for one-ways or that include open jaws and stopovers. And, so in other words, if you're just planning a really simple round trip, say the US to one city in Europe and then back to the same city, that gives you more options for points that you can have. If you know that you want to do a stopover and an open jaw, you should kind of go through the list and check those point currencies that allow you to do open jaws and one ways. We will put some resources in the show notes page. Again, that's abroaders.com/diversity. It will be probably a day or two before we get the show notes up. As I said, I am recording at couple hours before time to put this show live, so we may have a little bit of a delay getting the show notes out there this week for you guys. The last thing that you want to take a look at before you actually make those application plans is to look at your point balances, and we highly recommend using Award Wallet as your tool for monitoring all of your frequent flyer points and currencies. It basically gives you a dashboard that shows you all your balances at one time, with a couple of exceptions. Right now, Delta Airlines and United are not allowing Award Wallet to access the information, but there are some workarounds. You can have your statements forwarded from United and Delta to Award Wallet, and Award Wallet will manually import them into the list. But the bottom line is you just want to get an idea of all of your current points. And the reason that you want to do this is you want to cross-reference that with your destinations and the prices in the award chart that it's going to take you to get there. So, for example, if you've got, say, 50,000 US Airways miles, you want to take a look at what the prices are for the next trip to book your round trip to that destination. So if you're headed to Asia, let's say, and you know you want to travel in business class, say you're going to North Asia, you're going to Japan, and you've got 50,000 US Airways points, you're going to need an extra 60,000 points to get that 110,000 that's going to be required for the round trip to North Asia. And so knowing that kind of gap to close is a really critical part of your strategy. And so you might then decide that to get the next 40,000, you can sign up for the Barclays US Airways card, which is churnable, meaning that you can earn the bonus more than once. So you could top up 50,000 and get to 90,000 pretty quickly by making your first purchase after getting approved for that card. So in that case, I'd write that down on my list of planned applications. And the other thing that you want to do is we sort of think about it as a points possibility frontier concept for evaluating what points you have. And I studied economics, so anybody that's been through any Econ 101s may know this from the production possibilities frontier. But basically what we're looking at is what points you could have under a given set of circumstances. In addition to the points that you already have, you want to be accounting for any transferable currency. So in the US Airways example, Starwood Preferred Guest transfers to US Airways at a 1-to-1 ratio. And if you transfer 20,000 points, you get an extra bonus of 5,000. So when you're looking at those 50,000 US Airways points that you have, and you're thinking you're also looking at an application that's going to give you 40,000, now you're at 90. If you have 20,000 Starwood Preferred Guest points, that's going to get you to the next threshold. So now you're going to have 115 because of that 5,000 point bonus. So you move 20,000 Starwood Preferred Guests. That gives you 25,000 dividend miles on top of the 40 you got from the Barclays sign up and on top of the 50 that you already had. Now that you're at 115, you are ready to book business class round trip to North Asia. The rest of the points possibility part, it does get a little bit more complicated. So I wanted to share a simplified strategy that I used before we started building our broader software to keep track of inbound points. If you look at the Award Wallet interface, on the left side there's a button that you can use to download an Excel file with all of your current balances. So log into Award Wallet, update all of your accounts, and then download that CSV and open it up in Excel or paste it into Google Docs. What you want to do is To the right of each one of your balances, you want to add 3 different columns. The first column is going to be points that you've already earned but are not necessarily deposited. And so that's going to be like if you signed up for the City Advantage Platinum Select card, which currently has a bonus of 50,000 points, and you hit the $3,000 minimum spend. That means you've got 50,000 points inbound. They're coming from Citi to your American Advantage account, but you're not seeing them in Award Wallet yet. So you just want to add that 50,000 to the first column on the right side of your current balance. So you got your Award Wallet balance, let's say it's at 100,000, then you're going to have 50 in the next column. Those are the points that are already earned but not deposited. The second column you're going to use for points that are in the bonus challenge phase. So maybe you're still waiting for the card. It's any card that's been approved. So it's a bonus that you have an opportunity to earn, but you haven't met the requirements yet. So maybe the card's in the mail, maybe you're working on your minimum spend. So for example, let's say you signed up for the United Explorer personal card that had a 55,000 point bonus for spending $2,000 in 3 months and adding 1 authorized user. So in your second column, you're going to put those 55,000 potential points. Now, you know that that column, you've still got to fulfill the requirements, but at least then you can see that if all goes well, you're going to have those points on top of your current United balance that you downloaded from Award Wallet. And then the third column is really simple. You're just going to add up your actual points with your earned but not deposited points with your potential points for the ones that are in challenge. And that's going to give you your possibilities. And so now you know, okay, you've got maybe 200,000 possible United points and you've got 150,000 American points that are inbound or possible based on the cards and activity that you've had so far. That makes it much easier to plan your trips. So if you know that you're going to Asia and you know that you're going to Europe, you've got a couple of different currencies to work with. United allows stopovers and open jaws on a round trip. So if you know that on one of those trips you want to do the stopover thing and maybe see an extra city, you're going to want to kind of save those points for that trip. And then if you know you've just got a couple of one-ways, that's a great trip to use your American miles on. So hopefully that helps you guys kind of see the concept of how you can plan out your applications. And once you've got those potential point balances, then you can take a look at the applications that are available to earn new points. So if you've already got 100,000, 150,000 American miles and 200,000 United, you should probably be looking at some other currencies to get better diversified. So maybe take a look at earning some Alaska miles, earning some more Starwood Preferred Guest, maybe some Chase Ultimate Rewards, Amex membership rewards. The point is that now that you can see all of your different exact balances and possible balances, you have a much better idea of what you need to be well diversified so that your next trip is easier to book and you have more availability options. The last thing that I want to mention for today's show is a tip that came to my attention because we're helping a whole bunch of new customers get signed up for cards, and it's really, really important that you keep tabs on when you're supposed to be paying your bill, because that is the one thing that you can do that can totally screw this up for you. If you miss a couple of payments or even one sometimes, your credit score can get dinged and put you into that below the sort of 660, 670 mark where it's really feasible to sign up for credit cards to earn frequent flyer miles. So the tip that I wanted to share, what I do is I have my accounts all set to auto pay. You can call your bank. A lot of the major lenders will let you set this up online, but if you want to keep it simple, just call the number on the back of your card. You're going to be able to give them your checking account number and your routing number, and you can find both of those at the bottom of a check, and they will automatically debit your account for the amount of your statement. Now, I suggest doing it for the full statement balance, which guarantees that you're going to avoid any interest. So whatever you owe, they're going to debit from your checking account. You don't have to worry about it at all. You should, of course, double check your statement every month. So this does not preclude you from going through and checking transactions. You want to make sure everything is legitimate. But it just makes sure that if you forget to do that before your due date, you're not going to miss a payment. The second option, if you're worried a little bit about possibly overdrawing your checking account, you're worried about the idea that, if you just set up this auto debit, you're going to forget that you've got a $2,000 credit card bill and you're only going to have $1,800 in your checking. The way that you can still avoid that possible ding to your credit is by setting up to make your minimum payment automatically. So the difference here is that if you only make the minimum payment, you are going to have some interest charges accrue, but the important thing is that you're checking that box that you made the on-time payment. And so that is but the bare minimum. Set up auto pay and pay the minimum payment or the full statement balance if you don't want to have to worry about interest, and you're guaranteeing that, having 5 or 6 different credit cards, you're not going to forget which payments are due when and not send the payment to your credit card company in time. Hopefully you guys found that helpful. I would love to hear feedback from you about the tips I shared today. I'm off to the beach in Palafrugell before heading back to Barcelona tomorrow. Wherever you guys are, I hope you have a wonderful, productive week and safe travels. This week's International Jam is one I discovered a long time ago and just rediscovered. The artist is Bebe. She is from Valencia, Spain, and the song is Siempre Me Quedará. I hope you guys enjoy. We will see you next week, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard. Ciao.
Me cuesta abrir los ojos y lo hago poco a poco. No sea que aún te encuentres cerca. Me guardo tu recuerdo como el mejor secreto. Qué dulce fue tenerte dentro. Hay un trozo de luz en esta oscuridad para prestarme calma.
Hey brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.
La lluvia que caerá sobre este cuerpo y mojará la flor que crece en mí y volverá.